How's it going, Critter Family? I hope you all are doing well. Today we are going over a video by Zak George. I thought this would be a good video to go over because I love his title, How to Get a Dog to Stop Resisting Without Acting Like an Insecure Tough Guy. I love it, Zak. I think it's amazing. This might be in response to Larry Crone basically threatening what seemed like he was threatening violence, against Zak George by saying, apparently Larry Crone, I thought he retired, but apparently he didn't retire. Nobody ever retires, apparently, from dog training. He retired, but I guess he's back at it, and he's doing tours, or he's on a tour or whatever. I don't know. He's training somewhere. And, Zak said, well, we'll be there to peacefully protest against your methods if you plan on using choke, prong, or e-collars. And Larry, to some degree, said, come here and you'll see what aversives really are, or something to that extent. So I love this video, how he titles it, Without Acting Like an Insecure Tough Guy. Because that's all Larry Crone is. Some old washed up tough guy. Well, insecure tough guy. We're going to be going over this video here. We're going to go forward past his little ad here with BarkBox and all that good stuff.
Dog hesitates or refuses to do something. What if I told you the fastest way forward is to actually let your dog control what happens next?
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
I believe
let
that.
our dogs be in control of the process?
Dogs clearly show us when they're willing, and just as importantly, when they're not.
So I believe in giving dogs the right to consent. A lot of people don't. Larry Crone probably doesn't at all. A lot of other trainers out there don't. And they're going to say, oh, the purely positive people are dumb, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, I give my dog, I'm a force-free positive reinforcement trainer, and I give my dog and animals that I work with, whether it be a horse or a cat or even a gecko, I give them the right to consent. Meaning that they can tell me, yes, please, or no, thank you, when we want to do something. Now, if there's something that I need to get them used to, then, say, in case of an emergency, then I will work with them on teaching them to accept something they may not like. So that doesn't mean, because I give them consent, that I don't teach them or I don't do things that they don't like. Of course, I'm going to trim their nails. Of course, I'm going to help bandage up a wound or spray something on there that may cause it to burn or sting. That doesn't mean I'm going to let my animal die or be in harm's way. That's not what consent means or consensual training means. That's not what force-free means. We are not, just totally passive, permissive people. Alliteration. Or at least I myself, speaking for myself, I like to allow my animals to try training a polar bear the way you would Larry Crone. Try training them shield canine, dog training, whatever. Even Beckman, you can't try training them with a shot collar. That thing will kill you. And you won't be able to get and draw blood from them. They are taught willingly through positive reinforcement to offer their paw to have blood drawn. That's not fun, but we can still make it fun. And Zak here is working with a German Shepherd Malinois mix. Like two of the easiest breeds you can work with. Now, yes, he has a high drive, but still, giving him the right to consent, I think, is very important. Giving any animal the right to consent is very important.
Nervous of me.
Now, I know to our audience this might be a little surprising, but a lot of trainers still claim that dogs can't or shouldn't be put in a position to give consent, or they outright reject consent-based training. I mean, here's Michael Atlas. This guy's been around for a minute.
Consent, we don't get dogs consent for anything ultimately, unfortunately. Like, they're not able to give consent.
And
yes,
thankfully, a caller rightfully calls in to clear up this misinformation.
It's unfortunate that Michael thinks dogs or any other animal, for that matter, can't give consent. Consent and choice-based training strategies are widespread at this point and extremely effective. Tigers, elephants, gorillas, etc. are being trained on a very widespread level without the use of aversives, and they are often asked to opt into the training. So the idea that we can't teach other animals consent, that that's a human thing, is kind of offensive.
We're familiar with the likes of Balabanov over here.
Unlike humans, dogs lack the cognitive capacity to provide informed consent. This communication barrier prevents dogs from effectively expressing their true desires or concerns.
But here's what those folks are missing. Dogs do express consent. They just
Absolutely.
don't use words. And modern behavioral science confirms this across countless species. That includes dogs. Respecting consent actually makes training your dog easier, it makes it faster, and more effective. So what does getting consent actually mean when you're training your dog? It's about giving them as much choice as possible. For example, Wallace has never worn a harness before. Of course, I could just shove it on him and hope he tolerates it, but if you've ever tried that, you probably know how that goes. It's like
I know that actually firsthand because of a lot of the classes that I work with. There's puppies that are maybe about 8 or 9 weeks old that have never had a harness on before. And you can do that, even if you have an older dog, you can try that one of two ways. You can just put it on the dog and just wait for them to accept it. And some dogs will accept it and some dogs will absolutely protest and freak out, run around, or they won't move at all, or they'll lay down trying to get it off and you can just wait it out. Or you can slowly desensitize them to it, just like, for example, that woman who was just training the zebra to accept a halter right here. She's training the zebra to actually, which is very impressive with a zebra because zebras are not like your typical horse or equine. They're they're more closely related to the donkey, as you can see, with the big ears, the short mane, and the tail, but and sheer size of them. But they are more independent thinkers. It's a lot more difficult to raise a zebra and work with them because they are very wild still at heart than it is, even if raised in captivity, than it is to raise a horse or another type of equine. So teaching them to give consent to put on the halter itself is amazing. Of course, you could just corner them and try to abuse them and beat them and, put a halter on, never take it off, and becomes embedded and all that. A whole other can of worms that comes from that. Or you can slowly desensitize them like that, like she's doing here, and you can do the same thing for a dog. I've had a Shiba, not my own Shiba, but a Shiba I've trained before that was not at all okay with the harness. And he would run away when he saw the harness. So I would slowly desensitize him to being able to go up to the harness, me touching the harness, me moving the harness. We didn't get it on him in the first session or even the second session, but we got it much closer to him, got him to put his head through on his own, and it just takes time.
It's likely to make him trust me less. So let me show you how I introduce it to him with the aim of gaining his consent.
My first priority is to make sure the dog feels comfortable with the harness right from the beginning. Start by just having the harness on the ground, even if it's across the room. You might even try throwing treats near the harness to get them comfortable with approaching it.
Now, if I had a dog that had never had a harness on, I might not start with this approach. I might just put it on the dog and see how they do, unless they have, a very aversive reaction to it, and they show that they are not comfortable with it going over their head or going around their body. If they do show that, then I will take time to desensitize them to it.
You can see here, Wallace is off leash. He's free to walk away, but he's choosing to stay here and interact with me. And that is an example of implied consent. How do you know if your dog is giving consent? Watch their body language. Are they relaxed? Are they curious? Are they moving toward you?
What a cute.
It's also about recognizing when they're saying no. A dog that resists, moves away, or disengages is communicating just as clearly as one that eagerly participates. If they hesitate, move away, or show discomfort, slow down. Doing this will ironically speed up your training progress.
Once you see that they're comfortable with the harness on the ground, you can pick it up, perhaps touch it on their shoulder or their chest, throwing some treats on the ground as you do this.
Agreed. This is how I work with horses, and this is how I work with, many fearful dogs. If I have an animal that is acting fearful, or even with a cat, with my cat, I still call her Kitten, even though she's a year old. She just had her birthday in March. Getting her used to having her nails cut. She still doesn't accept that, but we're working on it. So, using an animal that is using this method and technique for an animal that is fearful, I think is important.
To communicate to them, hey, I love what you're doing here. Now, in a perfect world, our goal is to get our dog to voluntarily put their head through the harness on their own. All right, let's see what happens. Here.
This is some of the most fundamental
Now, this is
training.
probably where I would have started to see if he would do this on his own, or I would use a harness that unclips here, which is, I found a specific harness that I use. I think it's from Rabigoo. There is an extra clip here that allows this to open so the dog doesn't have to put their head through. Adonis was okay with it, but he preferred not to. So I would unclip this, then I would, move it around here, clip it there, and then clip the rest of the harness. That's something that you can also do if your dog accepts it, but it would be more preferable that the harness goes over their head in a different way.
Can do to improve your relationship with your dog. You can apply these steps to anything your dog might be hesitant about.
Once your dog is comfortable putting their head through the harness, take it off immediately. That way we can get them really comfortable with one step at a time. Eventually you can work
again,
up to
at this
fast.
stage, I think Wallace, I believe that's his name, is comfortable enough. I would just put it on him, but that doesn't mean that Zach knows more about this dog than I know. He may have tried that, and then then Wallace freaked out. Just seeing his body language now, he seems pretty accepting of it. So I would probably just put it on, but I don't have any problem with the method that he's using. Again, if I'm working with a fearful animal, or a dog who has a negative experience with something like this, I would absolutely take the same exact steps that he's taking.
The harness.
And I've done it before,
straps,
working
but
with
notice
the
how
Shiba.
I didn't rush to get the other two done. Okay, good man. Here you go.
But what if your dog doesn't consent? It usually comes down to three things. They haven't had enough positive experiences yet, so they just might need a bit more practice. There might be distractions in the environment, making it difficult to focus. That's something that this series will help you prepare your dog for. Or it's fear or discomfort that is making them hesitant. Consent-based training helps you spot these issues early, so you can adjust before they become bigger issues.
And I will say that putting on the harness is something entirely different than the dog walking in the harness. So if I were just to put it on, the dog was fine. Walking might be a total nightmare, and that would take training to get them to want to move forward. And I might move more slowly, putting the harness on, having them move a little bit more in the house than I would, originally thinking, just put it on, walk.
Key here is not doing this when you have to get the harness on them. Yes.
But Zach, what if it's an emergency? I hear you. Sometimes we don't have the luxury of waiting for consent, like in a medical emergency, or if we're trying to keep our dogs safe from oncoming
Loose
traffic.
dog.
That's exactly why teaching consent right now is so important.
There's a handle on this harness. I want to make sure that he's comfortable with the handle here in case I have to restrain him.
Dogs trained with neuro-affirming, positive, consent-based methods form stronger attachments and recover from stress faster. That makes emergencies easier to deal with for both your dog and you.
And you can see he's noticing it. Yes. Every time I do it, those big ears direct their attention. See that?
And that's something that I may or may not do. I don't necessarily want to sensitize them to that kind of pressure, as much as I don't want to necessarily desensitize them, because when I walk, I use pressure and release. To some people, it sounds really scary, but really, I use a finger's worth of pressure to move the dog back. I'll leave a link up here to show you exactly what I mean. So I use a finger's worth of pressure to move the dog back towards my direction. And as soon as they take one step in my direction, moving backwards into the leash, then I loosen that pressure. Again, there will be a link up here that you can check out.
Yes. Good man.
But what I mean by that is I want this, if I'm grabbing the harness, I want that to mean something. I want the dog to be able to know that, when they feel rough handling, that means like, whoa, that's out of the ordinary. So maybe they need to be paying a lot more attention to me, or maybe something happened, or maybe they might sit and try to offer other behaviors versus just ignoring that and keep on moving. That's just me.
Really healthy there. That was pretty smooth, wasn't it? But you can see how when we start off our relationship with kindness, with openness, with a willingness to let him explore and be part of the process instead of just imposing our will to put the harness on quickly, it really enables us to do much more sophisticated, amazing things later when we want to. I know what you're saying. What's your super easy homework today? It's to introduce anything new to your dog.
I
And
need to
get
do a
double
face.
the toys and treats from BarkBox and Super Chewer.
I will have links below.
We have over 1,000 videos on my channel, just like this one, that will show you everything you need to know about training your dog just about anything. Click thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed because our content is always evolving and we're always learning new things and trying to bring that to you. Check out my books.
Follow us on social, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, and we'll see you in the next video.
Excellent. So very good video. I love it. Going back to the title of my video is Zak the GOAT, the greatest of all time. I don't think anybody can be the greatest of all time because there's always going to be somebody greater or somebody just as good or plenty of people that are just as good or great or even greater. So when it comes to labeling somebody, the greatest of all time or the GOAT, people will say that Dog Daddy is the GOAT, or Cesar Millan is the GOAT or whatever. I think, do I think Zak is the greatest of all time? I don't think anybody can be that. Do I think he's a good trainer? Absolutely. Do I think he's, I think he's a great person for fighting the good fight against these negative reinforcement, positive punishment type trainers, these compulsion trainers, these trainers out here that use abusive methods and techniques. Absolutely. I think he's the GOAT for that. As far as just training goes, I think there's a number of people that are on the same level and that are just as good, if not, possibly better. But it's not about being the one single best. It's about being more of a community where we can all find someone that we enjoy working with and listening to. And they have a good message that goes out that is meant to benefit the dog and not just the human. So that's all I have to say. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy the video. Go say how to do to your little critters. Go say how to do for me. Give them some kind of love and they appreciate. Until next time, practice peace, patience, and positivity.